Alright guys, welcome back for another video on HAIKYU Fly High, and today I'm going to talk about the update we'll be getting tomorrow, which is going to be a new SSR character, and that's going to be the remaining member of Fukudani team. So we're going to get the opposite hitter, Konoha, we're going to get the mid blocker, Washio, and we are also going to get the liberal, Komi, okay? Now, I am going to be honest, the decision for you to make here is going to be very obvious. If you want to build a Fukudani team, then yeah, you can try on this banner. If you don't want to go for Fukudani team, you would be skipping this banner 100%, you wouldn't be summoning at all. And even if you are planning to go for a Fukudani team, you don't have to summon for those three characters either. I already talked about this in terms of team building for Fukudani, well, more for Bokuto, actually, I should clarify that. If you just want a team which support Bokuto, you don't actually need to do a Fukudani team. So that's kind of why, even if you really just want to shine on Bokuto and play around with him, you don't necessarily have to get all three of those characters. In terms of the reason why, I'll link that video in the comment section. But previously, I already basically created a guide into best team building for Bokuto, and that's kind of where I mentioned Fukudani was as nice, it's not a must-have for Bokuto teams, okay? So do check that out before you make the decision on if you do want to summon for any of those characters. But anyway, for completeness, I will talk about them in case you are planning to summon for it. One other thing I would like to mention is that the most important thing coming out tomorrow is not actually the characters, but the memories that will be coming out alongside with it. I'll talk about that in tomorrow's video when I actually have the banner out, because I will be trying to summon for them myself as well. But basically the mid blocker memory and also the liberal memory for Komi and also for Washio, they are some of the best universal SSR memories. So definitely do consider picking them up. I know they're only SSR rather than UR, but those are very good universal memories, so I would highly recommend them, okay? But anyway, let's go back to the characters and talk about them one by one. So for Konoha, he's probably, I would say, the best choice out of the three if you do want to summon on this banner. The main reason is that he's the only one at dupe 0, which can actually increase morale, and as a result, basically can actually help you to support Bokuto in Fukudani team. So you can see here, skillful, this actually can increase morale. None of the other characters, Washio or Komi, have that ability at base dupe level. Washio is able to do that at dupe 2, increase a bit of morale, and Komi is not able to do that at all, okay? So if you are going to summon on this banner for Fukudani, which is pretty much the only reason you'll be doing that, and you only plan to get one character, it has to be Konoha. Now, Konoha is going to get a bigger buff at dupe 6 as well, where his skillful is going to get even better, because that basically allows your whole team, when they do a receive, it's not going to use up one of the touches in your team morale, and that basically can preserve your team morale for longer, allowing Bokuto to hit harder for longer, etc. That kind of thing. So that's kind of why he is definitely very good, regardless whether you just get one single copy or whether you can get him to 6 dupes. Now, the other thing I will also want to just shout out for him, it's also going to be the fact that he has this ability when he's in the front row, he can increase the block and also power attack and quick attack for all of your allies. And then when he's in the back, he can improve receive and save. And that basically makes him pretty unique in the sense that he's one of the few opposite hitter which can also perform his role, regardless whether he's in front or at the back. Because for some of the other more supporting opposite hitters such as Daichi, he only has receiving ability, or for Sasaya, for example, from Data, he only has blocking ability, which basically makes them useless when, you know, one is at the back row or one is at the front row. However, Konoha doesn't really care about that, so he does have that good selling point as well. From that point of view, he's been, I think, probably the only opposite hitter which has that benefit both in front and also in the back. Obviously, you also get very damage focused ones such as Mad Dog and also Ushijima, who only attack, so in which case it doesn't really matter whether you're up front or at the back. But from like a supporting point of view, I think Konoha is the only opposite hitter which is able to benefit your whole team regardless whether up front or at the back, okay? So that can also be an interesting reason as to why you should be summoning for him. But once again, I would probably recommend only going for him if you're actually trying to build Fukudani team, because outside of Fukudani team, you probably would rather use a UR character such as Ushijima or Osamomiya, depending on whether you go for power attack team or quick attack team, and then Konoha wouldn't see any play, okay? So that's going to be the reason why you may want to consider summoning for Konoha. Then let's go for Washio. Now, Washio, like I said, he doesn't really have any synergy with Fukudome teams unless you get him to two dupes. In which case, oh, this is a bit of a translation error, which I saw on some websites. Okay, basically, some of the translation I saw was that only at two dupe when he scores, you're gonna get increased morale. I believe that's wrong because I can actually read from the Taiwanese server. It should be that when your team scores, when he's on the court, you get 20 morale. So you don't actually have to score with him yourself. It's just someone you need to score when he's actually on the court. Okay, so it's actually a lot easier for you to get those 20 morale points. Now, so that's just a translation error. So if you ever see that, do bear that in mind. Okay, I know probably I think it was translated from Nanoshin, which is a Japanese guide website, but obviously translation is not 100%, and I do believe it's going to be whenever your side scores rather than when he specifically have to score. Now, now, increasing 20 morale points when you score, that is good. The only thing you have to caveat is that sometimes you may be scoring when you're already in team morale, especially if you're actually playing up with Bokuto. A lot of time when you actually spike with Bokuto, especially using his ultimate attack, in team morale awakening, you will be scoring that point. And then as a result, you will actually waste your 20 morale point because it wouldn't really contribute to anything. So even though it does sound pretty good, or actually consistent, you may not actually be able to get the full use out of it. Because if you just think about it, it's 4 times 20. Theoretically, you should be getting 80 morale points, but in practice, you may not actually be getting full of that. Okay, so you do have to bear that in mind. Other than that, I'll have to be honest, there's nothing really too special about him. I don't think he's a bad mid blocker. It's just that by this point in the game, unless you are very, very new and you actually miss an SSR mid blocker, otherwise you probably already have two very good mid blocker in your team. And even if you're new to the game, the same with mid blockers, that vast majority of the time you'll be subbing out one of them in the one at the back for your liberal. So you really only need one to be the one up front. And everyone, because already got Tsukishima as part of the beginner event on day 7. So the value of a mid blocker is just really, really low. And like I said, because he doesn't really offer any improvement to the existing SSR mid blockers, there isn't really much point of you putting for him unless you are dedicated to get two dupes on him. Okay, so that's pretty much going to be my advice on him. Unless you are willing to spend two dupes on him, otherwise don't bother putting him at all. And then we go to Komi. Komi is a really weird character. First of all, he's in Fukudome team. However, he doesn't actually increase team morale for yourself. He actually decreases team morale for your opponent. So he almost counters enemy Fukudome team. And then if you take a look at his skill 3, when he receives a power tap, so once again, this is going to be very much team dependent, depending on which enemy you are facing. It's going to affect how often you will actually be able to trigger this, okay? So that's kind of why it's not a very universal liberal, in my opinion. The one good thing about him is that when you have him at dupe 2, you're able to reduce your ult cooldown to just 6 turns, 6 net crossing, which is actually pretty big, because it essentially allows you to use an ult every other 2 turns, I guess, or every other 2 net crossing, or sorry, every other 2 receiving action, let's put it this way. Because if you send by the one receiving action requires 2 net crossing, right? You have to get the ball over and then hit it back, okay? So basically for every 3 receive, you're able to use one of your ult, and that's actually pretty nice. The only problem with this, oh, and also when he at Dupe 2, he also have an additional ability of powering up your power attack spikers. Now, the thing with this is that if you actually want to make full use out of this, you want to pair him up with power attack spikers. However, the main 2 power attack spikers in this game are Bokuto and Ushijima. Ushijima, if you are going to play Ushijima, the best liberal for Ushijima is going to be Yamagata, right? For the Shirtozo Bond and also the high reflex, which can reset the cooldown for Ushijima. And then if you want to pair with Bokuto, the liberal you probably actually want to get is going to be the one from Inarizaki, because this one actually have the ability to increase in team morale whenever you do a receive and save. So that's kind of why Komi is a bit of a weird situation in the sense that he tried to improve power attack spikers, but then he's not the best fit for both of the mainstream power attack spiker. And then if you are even trying to compete for like a universal power attack spiker buffer kind of role, then you also have Nishinoya who can also do the same thing. And that just makes the value of Komi really, really low when there are already so many other good choices in comparison. And then the other thing, like I said, is that it's very situational on how much use he's going to get out. Whether, you know, for example, you're trying to use him to counter Fukudome team or trying to counter power attack team. So that's going to even further decrease his usability. So that's kind of why out of the three, I personally think Komi is probably the one that you can skip altogether because he just doesn't really. I mean, I don't think he's a bad character. It's just that I don't really see the reason why you play him over any other liberal when other liberals are much better fit for respective teams. Okay, so that's probably the way I would put it. So yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts on three characters. Like I said, it's going to be a very easy decision. If you're not going for a Fukudon team, you'll be skipping the spend altogether. Okay. However, as a recap, if you are trying to build a Fukudan team, if you're only thinking of getting one character out of the three, therefore no duping them out, it has to be Konoha. If you're planning to get a character and potentially get to two dupes with him, then you can consider Washio, but in those cases, I'll probably still recommend getting Konoha first at 0 dupe, and then get Washio at 2 dupes. And then if you actually have loads of dupes or loads of milk to spend on someone, and you can actually go 6 dupes with someone, then it has to be Konoha again. Because Konoha 6 dupes, to be honest, is actually pretty big buff for Bokuto teams. But yeah, so that's going to be my thoughts on the three upcoming characters. Like I said, the memories are going to be a lot more important, but I will talk about that in tomorrow's video. Alright, let me know what you guys think and whether you'll be summoning for any of those characters.